in all honesty, do we really honestly need that?
Nope.
Or is it just something that humans just made because it's available to be made? It's the same thing with the question of like nuclear bombs. Does that need to exist? No. But because you have a bunch of science nerds creating the technology and combining certain chemicals together, they just made the shit.
There's not the idea of AI is bad. It's used in the specific scenarios in which we've seen it in like movies and stuff like that. It definitely works and has its purpose, whatever. But we're not giving that to the public. We're giving you the watered down, overly undersaturated version of whatever you're asking for. Motherfuckers want Jarvis.
Do you think we can do that?
We could, but not on a scale that everybody's going to have a fucking Jarvis. And you know how expensive that would be?
Probably like $1 billion.
And that's average for everybody. Back at it again. We live. You know what's going on. It's the Unpopular podcast. You know what's going on. Where's the cameraman in the building? Randall in the building. It's June 7th.
June 7th. What happened?
It's June 7th.
June 7th.
I would hate to piss you off right now, but 6-7.
Davian, this whole year has like been pissing everybody off. Cause like, Davian, I just fell down a rabbit hole on IG for a second, and it's like, dude, it
what was
feels
you
like...
on IG looking up?
No, I wasn't looking up anything. I went on my real explore page, and I just fell down a rabbit hole of like, so like it just started talking.
You don't even half the time people don't even be looking for shit, but the internet will give you
the algorithm.
It think you know what you're looking for.
It just feeds you something.
Bull crap, yeah.
And then the longer you watch it, the more it's gonna give you that same sort of content and shit. And anyway. I just fell down like a fucking, I don't even want to say scary rabbit hole, but like all of the like conversations regarding AI data centers and stuff like that, and apparently like the noise it emits and shit, like the loud noise it emits and shit, and apparently like it's giving kids or like people like mental and physical problems because of how loud the sounds are or some shit like that. Again, Davian, I don't know how real this is.
Sound pollution is a real thing.
No, yeah, 100% Davian, but just a matter of like how loud it is. Because like I hear what you're saying, Davian, but like it's making it seem like this thing is like it seems like roaring at the top of its lungs or some shit like that. Like I don't know how real that is.
I mean, it's already. I don't know how loud it is, but I'm sure for people who live next to like airports, that's probably really inconvenient.
Well,
airplanes are loud as shit.
Well, David, actually, my girlfriend, she actually lives near. She lives in Newark, so she lives near an airport. And yeah, like it is a little loud, but like it's only when the plane takes off.
No, I understand, but that shit happens like every couple of seconds at Newark.
Not really. Yeah. Not where she lives.
Well, she must not be that close to the airport then.
No, David, like the planes are like fairly close, like. You know what I mean? They're not dangerously close, but like they're fairly close.
I mean, obviously they're not going to be that close because like,
and the plane doesn't
there has
really
to be space in between your landing space and I guess infrastructure that's made for people to live. You know, but planes take off frequently at Newark.
Yeah,
I don't know how often, but
I mean, like I've been to her house obviously, and like the planes when they take off, like. It does give off a sound, but it's not super loud. And it's also the same thing with like even trains, because like when I lived in New York, we were
the same shit.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like when I lived when I lived in New York City, we were under on top of the subway station. Mm-hmm. So the train actually did give off some noise, but it wasn't really that bad though. But apparently this like AI data centers, it's like apparently it sounds like
everybody has different levels of tolerance, man. Everybody has different levels of tolerance. I don't know if the train isn't bad by over here, but when I used to live over there on Main Street in Boundbrook, where those new apartment buildings are, the train used to come every morning before my alarm would go off, and that shit would wake me up in the morning.
Well, the funny thing is that like the train system, like because I live in that same area, I would hear at least like depending on the time of the night, the train would actually go off a little bit, but I didn't hear like the moving of the train. I heard like the bell ringing from the train. Okay. That's what I heard. I didn't hear the actual like rustle of like the tracks moving, but I heard
not the rustle of the track, nigga, the horn. You hear the horn going off on the train.
I heard that too to some extent, but it wasn't really that bad. And I mean, you and I didn't live like super far from each other, but like
well, I'll tell you like this, because I living on Main Street in Boundbrook. space makes so much of a difference. I don't think you're that close to the train station. You are close to the train station, but I don't. But for it to be
2 minutes away,
for it to be as loud as it is, like imagine hearing the train every morning coming from like where Torpedoes is.
That's fair.
You live right next to the train station. That's how close my house on Main Street used to be when we lived in the train station.
Now,
and it's close enough in between the Boundbrook train station and the Bridgewater train station to be able to hear both going off.
Now, here's a question. Do you think that this is a conversation about whether or not people's noise tolerance is really the problem, or is it really more of like building and like putting things like an airport, a train station, even like a bus system in like more suburban areas is an ethical thing to do because of how loud it can be?
Well, I don't think the sound pollution is a problem that we're looking at directly. I think it's a subsequent cause of everything we're already doing to create infrastructure for ourselves. Like obviously you need public transportation in these places, and the bigger the place, the more mass you'll need to service. So I don't necessarily think it's a problem.
No, the larger the population, not necessarily the size of the land mass.
No. I'm talking about the people. I'm talking about the people you have to serve, like the mass of people. The mass of people, not the space in which you're serving, because that won't differ unless you have a more metropolitan area like New York, which has a more complicated subway system.
And David, I also do think that the real problem with noise pollution, David, I think it's just the fact of like, despite America having all this money that we fucking have, our technology is like 1950s level technology, where like we shouldn't be having a sound pollution problem with like trains and planes, where like Davian, hold on a second. I can almost promise you, Davian, that like the bullet train in Japan doesn't make any kind of noise that our trains make.
I hear what you're saying. About the infrastructure of our actual technology and how loud that actually is.
It's bullshit.
But I mean, our shit is old. Our shit is old
and not updated.
It definitely needs an update. But I think noise pollution is relative to just like how heavily populated your area is. Like,
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, Davian, but at the same time, I think there isn't an
like if there was if there was a data center, one of these data centers, there was a data center in the middle of fucking Montana where there's nobody around, nobody would complain about this shit.
No, absolutely.
Nobody would complain
absolutely.
about this shit.
I hear what you're saying, Davian. I'm just referring to like the technology and how advanced we supposedly claim that we are. There's not an excuse. Like, Davian, if Tesla...
We put our money towards the wrong things.
Can I finish my fucking point?
No, my bad.
Like, damn, nigga.
I know why.
I know we're having conversations, Davian, but like, we gotta stop doing the whole cutting off thing. But back to what I was saying. Like, Davian, if Tesla, for example, despite whatever controversies around Tesla, if Tesla can have a relatively quiet car and it moves pretty quietly and drives fairly quietly, I don't think there should be an issue with having a train or a plane that is able to be relatively silent compared to the size of it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like Teslas are pretty quiet, right?
Yes, but we're talking about electric vehicles. We don't have... I don't think we've...
Why can't we have electric trains? We don't have the money to make stuff like that? Yes, we do.
I'm not.
You're not going to tell me
I'm
you
not
don't
saying
have the
that
money
we
to
don't.
make
I'm not saying
like
that we don't. I'm saying the infrastructure in order to support that we don't have.
Yes, we do. We don't, Davian. It involves the money that we're not funneling into the fucking system and the infrastructure.
Nigga, I just said that. But you told me not to cut you off, so we're not going to talk about that. I said,
sorry.
Literally, that's not what we're putting our money into. We're putting our money into all this other dumb shit, and that's why we don't have all these nice things.
Can I just make one comment, David? Like, you have a tendency to like not be direct when you say shit like that. Like, you like to use clever wordplay to like explain your shit.
I said we don't pay for that shit directly. If we spend our money on dumb shit, like having, like our budget on drone technology should not be this.
David, our budget on the military shouldn't be as big as it is. Like there's no reason.
We're only answering the same questions, Randall, on the dumb shit that we as a country spend our money on.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
we
so
can,
ridiculous.
We can go all day with this list of dumb
shit that we spend money on.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there really is no... Davian, we have enough money, Davian, I'll be completely honest with you, Davian. We probably should have enough money and technology and geniuses that could invent, like, floating parking spaces for people.
Our drones go across countries and shoot people.
And assassinate them.
Yeah. Japan, you know what they're... drones do. They do shows better than most fireworks.
Yeah. Apparently, Japan is like decades ahead of us when it comes to like their technology and what they can do. Davian, they have rivers in their streets where koi fish can live.
No, I understand, but that's because they're investing into their infrastructure differently for the quality of the people who live in the country. Because we don't do that shit over here. Because they don't give a fuck about the people who live over here
at all.
How they live
at all.
They don't give a damn.
You really care about the 1%. That's the core of the problem. Like, Davian, America really does have the money and the competency to be an actual utopia, but we just don't do the shit. That's the problem. You feel me? Like, there's no excuse.
I don't want to be in an American utopia. I want to be in a utopia that encompasses the world. Fuck America.
That's not really going to be possible, Davian.
I understand. It's not going to be possible for any of us, Randall. That's why we talked about this before. And I think that just goes to say that the idea of a utopia, of this perfect society, people need to throw that shit out.
When did you become the cynical one in this conversation? I'm the one that talks like that.
I think I've watched enough media in general that talks about this kind of stuff or plays with these kind of ideas enough to like know exactly why we don't need any of this shit. I watch a lot of you gotta start watching more shows.
David,
like,
but see, I don't watch TV to educate myself, David. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but
I don't watch this to educate myself as per like give myself reliable information. I'm not watching these shows for educational purposes to give myself a better understanding of the world that's around me. This is all speculation. This is all speculation and hypotheticals. Like when I'm watching shows like Black Mirror, they're just creating scenarios in futuristic settings in which we have this technology that does shit that we don't need it to do.
Well, that's also true like, of things now.
Like I would relate it to like the Twilight Zone. Have you ever seen the Twilight Zone?
No.
Okay.
Because like Davian, if you really think about it fundamentally, Davian, like with AI, for example, do in all honesty, do we really honestly need that?
Nope.
Or is it just something that humans just made because it's available to be made? It's the same thing with the question of like nuclear bombs. Like does that need to exist? No. But because you have a bunch of science nerds creating the technology and combining certain chemicals together, they just made the shit.
It's not the idea of AI is bad. It's used in the specific scenarios in which we've seen it in like movies and stuff like that. It definitely works and has its purpose, whatever. But we're not giving that to the public. We're giving you the watered down, overly undersaturated version of whatever you're asking for. Motherfuckers want Jarvis.
Do you think we can do that?
We could, but not on a scale that everybody's going to have a fucking Jarvis. And you know how expensive that would be?
Probably like $1 billion.
And that's average for everybody.
Right.
For everybody to have a Jarvis in their back pocket, that's expensive as hell. So no, everybody's not going to get a Jarvis. So you can get this Chat GPT that gives you wrong answers. Word is bond. Because you want to be so advanced, but clearly the advancement to be at this level is going to take some money and some type of infrastructure, and we don't have that to give to everybody. You know, at the least we can give you like Siri and Alexa.
Yeah.
But like
that can like play things and like turn on your lights or your oven or whatever.
Exactly.
That would be kind of cool though.
They already do that.
No, yeah. So like that's okay. But like to be able to converse with a chatbot and like do shit like that, I think that's a bigger problem.
That's the problem. Here's the other half of it.
Go ahead.
When I say that people want Jarvis. People want Jarvis because they see the type of access that Jarvis has to do whatever Tony asks him to do.
Right.
You're not Tony fucking Stark, neither.
You're not intelligent.
You're not Tony fucking Stark. So you don't need this highly calibrated supercomputer to search the internet and search all of these different databases to give you some stupid ass answer that you could have figured out yourself.
Yeah.
Like Tony is still a genius.
Yeah. And that's actually interesting, David, because I saw a video one time where they said that like the real issue or the real thing about AI is that like it's only going to really be useful for people that are actually smart and intelligent. It's not going to work for dumb people.
No, all it's gonna do is be what is all it's gonna do is.
It's only as good as the person
automate
using
stuff.
it.
I've been calling AI something completely different for like the last month now.
Which is
Automated ignorance.
automated ignorance. Quote that, please. Say it again.
AI does not stand for artificial intelligence. It stands for automated ignorance.
One more time. For people in the back.
AI stands for automated ignorance, not artificial intelligence. All you're doing is relinquishing your ability to critical think for yourself.
And that's a fact.
And you're allowing it to make your own this is I was just watching this video earlier about like the algorithm and how For You pages even why they even exist, whatever. You're basically allowing the AI to think for you, come up with all the shit that you think that it thinks you want to see on your For You page. It's gonna do that all day, or you don't gotta stop scrolling.
Yeah, like, it just feeds you what you want.
Short form content is like the most digestible thing we use as media nowadays.
Because we have these
aside from literal cable television, which is still in the lead, but like that might just be in America. Worldwide, it's short form media.
Yeah, short form like 2-minute content videos, whatever it is. And it's also partly because like like you said, it's more digestible, but it's also partly because we got the attention spans of goldfish. If not lower than that, I think goldfish have longer attention spans than we do. Shockingly enough. But that's actually kind of interesting because like technology is good and it has its pros and cons, but the problem is that like so there's a rapper I know, right? Or a rapper that I listen to. His name is Dax. He's Canadian. I think you may have heard about him.
I know of Dax.
So he has a song named titled Gotham, right? And he actually one of the lines in that song is, "But what did you expect when dumb people got smartphones?" So the real issue I would argue with when it comes to technology is very similar to what he said. It's like technology isn't bad. It's just the problem is when stupid people get a hold of it, they fuck it up for everyone else. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. They don't know what they're doing with it. You know what I mean?
No, I completely understand.
And they just make it so much worse and the experience so much worse because there's so much brain rot on Instagram right now that I have to turn off my phone. It's like so ridiculous to me. That's why a lot of the times on my page, I'm either watching like UFC fights, like because like that's just combat sports, or like I'm watching like motivational videos. That's really it. I'm not watching videos of people with like opinions, unless you're like a board certified like doctor, psychologist, or some shit like that. I ain't listening to you because you don't know anything, or you probably don't know as much as you think you do. Because I'm not gonna sit here and discredit like people that may not be formally educated but have some degree of knowledge about something. Because that's like one of the other problems of like elite education people, where they kind of like discredit people that don't have the same education as they do. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying.
It's like, yeah, but like yeah, technology is just like it's just a tool, and we just use it wrong. But I also do believe that technology is being used incorrectly, partly because of human nature. And the unfortunate dark side of human nature is very selfish and very like self-interested, where we use certain things that exist for our own advantages. And it's just a matter of our evolutionary need for survival and just well-being. You know what I'm saying? Like this is where I'm gonna get cynical now. Where like I'm using like examples of technology that people use to just maintain their own evolutionary benefit, their own evolutionary, necessity of survival and like well-being and just like.
Give me an example.
I would argue that I don't necessarily have
technology that does that keeps us in our same state.
No, like it's not even a matter of like a piece of technology. It's like people using any form of technology that existed, from smartphones to even money to like even just like institutions that are a form of technology that we use to keep society civilized. People use it in a way that serves their own, let's say, evolutionary interest of surviving and propagating and just lasting longer in humanity, even at the expense of other people. Because if there's one thing I know about evolution, Davian, is that it doesn't care about what's true or what's morally right or wrong. It just cares about what survives.
So, I'm trying to think of
take the mic, bro.
Sorry, no, I'm my bad. I'm just trying to think of an example that makes sense with what you're saying. Like, how we've abused technology that's kept us in a state of stagnancy. That's what you're referring to. So like,
yeah,
when,
because
when these niggas figured out how to hack into the Kia cars and shit.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, Davian, but I'm kind of referring to like people just like using any means of technology or strategies to effectively like this is what we talked about before about the difference between people who are hyper aware and people that are lower in consciousness, where like they're just not aware of their own, like, let's say, instincts and nature, where some people really just like look at the world through the lens of evolution, as opposed to people that have a higher consciousness in their way of thinking, where they think beyond their more primitive instincts of like food, survival, reproduction. Who gives a fuck?
Right.
You know what I mean? People like us that actually are a little bit more, because like I was talking to Mike about this a couple weeks ago about this, and he didn't call me condescending, but he said that like you categorizing yourself as a person who is quote unquote more aware of human nature versus other people because they don't have the education that you do is a little bit condescending.
I would agree with
Mike.
Mike.
I'm not trying to say it like that, but like that's what I mean.
I would agree with Mike.
You know,
like I think you asked me this question before, and I think I had an answer for it. But like, I think we were talking about like access or whatever to like education, and I think I came to the conclusion I was like, if everybody had that same access to education and resources, there would be, I think, a couple of things. There would be a better understanding of what our standard is, and we would have a lot less stupid. We would call all other people stupid.
We have a lot less people?
A lot less stupid people.
Yeah, and I mean, David, I don't think necessarily people are stupid in the sense of like because of their lack of education. I think it's the difference between people that are just less aware of their own, like, because for example, Davian, to really understand human nature, it requires a lot of introspective. You really have to kind of like look at yourself and look at your own like internal mechanisms, where like, for example, when you study the brain, what is that? Like, who's screaming like that? Do you know?
No, I thought it was a bird the way it was screaming.
Yeah, like it sounds like a human screaming. Sounds like a human screaming. Like, what is that? Anyway, my point being is that when you, for example, when a neuroscientist like studies the brain, they kind of learn that like the brain has these automatic forms of automatic mechanisms that operate on their own, and it doesn't require conscious thought to actually function, right? So that's what's very similar to human nature, is that human nature is an evolved adaptive strategy that did not require initial conscious thought to actually function. It was something that we used, or that our brains used, in order to survive, the forces of nature, before conscious thought, even became a thing.
I can understand.
Becoming aware of our own nature, it requires a lot of introspective and knowing that a lot of our behavior are automatic, and a lot of our impulses are automatic. Where, for example, like I was talking to Mike about this too. The whole have you ever heard of some kind of psychology called us versus them psychology?
I think I've heard that before, yeah.
It's actually a byproduct of evolution in the part of the brain called the amygdala. You know what that is, obviously. Yes. The part of the brain that's responsible for fear of the unknown, and like curiosity and like judgments and this, that, and this. So we as humans, like many other animals, are very hyper aware of strangers and people that don't look like us. And we're hardwired to want to align ourselves with people that do look like us and people that are similar to us. This is why the whole issue of like black people and white people and people of different racial and ethnic backgrounds and different environments tend to engage in some form of like tribal conflict, because we are tribal animals, and we tend to separate people into different groupings based upon certain characteristics, certain facial appearances, racial identity, religious identity, and even just cultural values. And we do that constantly, and we do it almost impulsively, where it's outside of our own conscious thought. You're not consciously thinking about, like, when you see a group of white people and a group of black people, you're not consciously choosing to align yourself with the black people. Yeah, you're just doing it automatically.
But what do you think what do you think in our history as humans allowed for us to be able to do that?
What do you mean?
Like,
what caused us to do that?
Yeah.
Well,
like,
David,
feel that we have that sort of, I don't want to say entitlement, but just like
that need for tribal belonging.
No, not the need for tribal belonging. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the more so like excluding of others who don't fit in.
Well, David, that's just the reality of our nature, because we spent most of our evolutionary history dealing with people that look like us. We you know, Davian, until more recently, Davian, long distance travel wasn't a thing for us. We didn't really travel that far as a species until you know, like more recently.
So are you saying that it's an inherent thing that we treat people differently because they don't look like us?
Yes, it is. Now, but the thing is, Davian, is that sounds very like barbaric and very like animalistic, but the reality is, Davian, we are fucking animals, and we do that impulsively. It's not necessarily done automatically out of hostility, where like if we see somebody of an opposing race or ethnicity, we're just gonna go off and kill them. It's just more of like, wait a minute, who's this person? Why do they look differently? And why are they in my environment? Why are they in my backyard? It's a level of curiosity combined with fear of the unknown, because, Davian, if you're in a predominantly black neighborhood where you have 100 black people standing in a group, and one white boy shows up out of nowhere, Davian, you're gonna impulsively look at them and say, wait a minute, what's this white boy doing here? You're not doing it out of malicious intent where you want to actually kill him or hurt him. You're just doing it out of like fear and curiosity, because he doesn't look like you. He doesn't look like you. He's not built like you. He's not from the same environment, and he looks differently than other people. So your brain is trying to fill in the blanks as to who he is, what he's doing here, why he's over here, and your brain is trying to guess whether or not he's a threat to you. Your instinct is going to lean you more towards, this person maybe more of a threat to me because he doesn't look like me.
Have we ever implemented anything in our own history that has made that easier?
There are ways of doing it, Davian, because we've become more intelligent in our ability to separate people. Like, we are inevitably going to always separate and categorize people in a certain way, but we can do it in ways that are far less threatening and more and far less, you know, motivating for us to engage in potential violent acts against a person because they're different. So, like, for example, sports teams. Sports teams is one of the easiest and most harmless ways of separating people into us versus them dichotomies, because number one, sports is just like a collectively agreed upon thing that everyone loves.
Now, I understand,
now obviously, but then when you have, like, you know, the Jets and the Patriots, that's an us versus them dichotomy. You know, Patriot fans, as Jet fans, Patriot fans are our rivals. And when we play them, you know, we're at the game, we're talking shit, we're you know, we're kind of getting in their face and being rowdy. But at the end of the day, we don't want to kill them. You know what I mean? Now, some people do. Some people get to that point where, like, sports is that important to them, and if you're on the opposing team, they might want to get violent with you if they're drinking. But generally speaking, it's a much less harmful way of categorizing people into separate social groupings that won't run down the lines of something that is a real identity, like race and ethnicity and culture and religion. Those are things that human beings will kill somebody over if you don't align with their worldview. Yeah. And history proves that.
I understand that.
You know, so we will inevitably always categorize people into, you know, separate social groupings, but we can do it in ways that are much less harmful, and we can create new categories of us versus them that are better for everybody, like, you know, nationally and globally, as opposed to like doing it in ways where we're just separating people based upon their racial, religious, or cultural identity. Yeah. You know, like Christians and Muslims is an us versus them example, and it gets to the point where like those two groups want to kill each other. And that's the problem, because religion is a form of identity that people take very seriously, where it's like, I will die on this faith.
I seen the same video that I was watching about the damn social medias and shit was telling me about
Speak a little louder, please.
The same video that I was watching about the social media shit was telling me about how we create tools that create new types of like people in our society. Like the example that they used was like people were the printing press revolutionized, being able to mass market whatever you needed to print, but it created the kind of person who would sit in their own house in their isolation, who would read and speculate and contemplate about the human experience that we were experiencing, which brought on the Age of Enlightenment. And I just think about what this tool of AI is, what kind of person this is creating because of it. And it's like somebody who doesn't have any type of patience, somebody who doesn't have any type of not emotional regulation, but just like nervous system regulation.
Okay, so where are you going with this?
Where I'm going with this in relative to the conversation that you were talking about when you were just talking about what were you just saying?
God damn, is that weed that strong?
No, what were you just saying?
The us versus them divide,
us versus them.
and like how we are hardwired for that kind of separation.
Yeah, I think what this is what this is doing is it's like it's creating the us versus them narrative for you without you even coming up with your own introspective on it. I think that's what the issue is nowadays with the way that the algorithm works and how it pushes information to you.
Well, yeah. So, like, I hear what you're saying. So basically, like, the algorithm is intentionally creating a polarity and trying to categorize people, and like, but it's also partly because, Davian, the content that people make is based on that too. They're intentionally trying to separate people by making it seem like, look at these people and look at what they're doing. Like, we don't do that, and like, we don't believe in this, or like they'll say these group of politicians, like, Republicans or Democrats, are doing this and doing that, and they're trying to take away, us and our freedoms and our rights or whatever. They're creating that us versus them dichotomy.
Yeah, I understand. It's like we're subscribing to the us versus them without even really critically questioning what either side
is truly
thinking or offering for us and our benefit.
Yeah.
And then we're just taking up sides and then wondering how the hell we even got here in the first place.
And why we're fighting over basically bullshit.
This is ridiculous.
That's what you're thinking, and that's just that's a prime example of what I mean by human nature. Contrary to popular belief, Davian, we haven't really effectively evolved beyond our evolved survival strategies in our nature as humans. Even though we're living in modern day, I said this to you before and you didn't believe me. Like, contrary to popular belief, Davian, we are still very much hardwired with our primitive instincts. You know what I mean?
Well, we haven't we're not even at the peak of ourselves as a species yet.
Exactly. That's what I mean, because we haven't evolved beyond it yet. The fact that we as humans in the modern day
we haven't personally as humans, we haven't had to adapt in a couple millennia.
Yeah, and it's also just partly simply because,
at least biologically, I'll say.
Yeah, because biological evolution takes forever. People don't realize that there's a difference between cultural and technological evolution and biological evolution. The brain more recently just invented, I think the final part of our brain, which was, I think, the insular cortex, or I think it was the prefrontal cortex, whatever. It was one of those two different things. That part of the brain what was developed like 50,000 years ago, and we still haven't invented anything now. So it's gonna take a minute for us to, even evolve, to either create a new part of the brain, or go or evolve beyond our primitive instincts. And that's why I try telling people, but people just don't want to hear that because they're not, I don't want to sound like this, they're not hyper aware. They're not aware of their nature. When you read like a lot of the works of like neuroscientists and you kind of study how the brain operates, you learn that the brain has like these internal automatic mechanisms that were a result of our need for survival.
I don't think that people looking up the information that you're presenting to them is bad. I just don't think they know what to do with it.
And you see, and that's my problem too, Davian, because I hear what you're saying, Davian, is that the information is in a nutshell kind of neutral, and we need fucking stupid interpretations and stories to make sense of the shit, which I fucking hate, because it's like when I hear this kind of information from like a scientist like Robert Sapolsky, and he's explaining like how these internal automatic mechanisms in the brain operate, I already have a pretty good understanding of what we need to do to actually fix it, or how to address it, or how to correct it, or how to even in some ways trick the brain to think differently.
Yes.
But for some reason, people, not saying you do this, but people that are kind of in your realm of like, well, what does this information mean to me? It's like, dude, you can't just read it and just like understand the shit.
Nah, not even saying that, but it's like, even for you listening to the information about what he's saying directly, how easy is that for you to apply it to your own life?
Because it teaches me to be aware of my own impulsive, automatic tendencies that are a result of the brain. So, like for example,
but hold on. You're still saying the same thing. You're telling me. You're telling me you understand what he's saying.
Yes.
Feel me? How do you apply the understanding of what you're doing to your life so that you can benefit from it?
So, for example, Davian, when I'm in, so like I said before, we typically will categorize people in a certain way based upon race, ethnicity, cultural, or religious backgrounds, right? When I come in contact with a person that is not in alignment with who I am, whether it's a person of a different race, ethnicity, culture, or religious background, and I know that that part of the brain, the amygdala, is going to go instantly into judging that person, I become aware of that, so I stop it the second it happens. So like I'm in an environment, right, and I see a white person, or if I'm in the middle of the street, right, and a white boy walks up to me, I'm instinctively going to be like, okay, that's a stranger, be aware, be afraid, be very cautious because you don't know if he's a threat. I shut that part down where it's like, okay, before I automatically go into pre-assumed ideas of who this person is, I'm going to wait until he talks. And I'm going to wait to see what he says to really be able to understand whether or not he's a threat. Most people, the moment they come in contact with a stranger of a different background, they instantly and automatically put on presumptions without even attempting to hear the person speak. So by the time that person even speaks, they already have a preconceived notion of who that person is, and a lot of people can't really get beyond that. Okay. You know what I mean? Once that pre-assumed idea of who that person is kind of locked into their brain, they don't get rid of it. They don't release it. Even after they talk to the person.
I hear what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? I don't do that. I go into every situation talking to a person who's a stranger to me with a blank slate where it's like, hold on, I don't know who this person is or what they believe in or what they think, and regardless of their race or their ethnicity, I don't know if they're a threat to me, so I'm going to leave it completely blank.
Okay, so that's on the basis of talking about one-on-one interactions.
Right.
I don't know if that still applies for
groups.
For groups I would say for groups. Even as far as to expand that to like areas.
I would, but the thing is, Davian, I've trained myself to do that as well. I've trained myself, Davian, to really go into almost every interaction with a person, not having much of a clue who that person is and what or what that group or what that group is until they start talking. Until you start talking to me, Davian, I'm letting you fill in the blanks of who you potentially are to me, and that's what I do. Okay. I don't let anybody like I don't let my brain prejudge people before letting them speak. Too many people in the world, Davian, are like that, where the second they see you, if I'm a white guy and I'm not aware of my instinctive tendencies, I see you as a black dude, I'm going to assume certain things about you because of the media or because of some other bullshit or simply because you're different than me.
Right.
How do I know you're not going to, kill me later today if we have a conversation? That part of my like prejudgment of before you start talking, I shut that off.
Okay.
Most people don't do that.
Do you remember when we had a conversation? I think we had this like a couple months ago or whatever. But we had this conversation before we were preparing to go to the that workout event.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
That was in, I forget where it was, but I think we had to drive.
Dumont, New Jersey.
Dumont or whatever. but on the way there, we had to drive through Patterson.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And you was like, oh, we in the hub. We in Patterson. Feel me? Gotta keep an eye out here. Don't know what's going to happen. Feel me? I think that's the same kind of preconceived notions that you might be making about a specific person, but just about a generalized area.
I would agree with you to some extent, Davian, but if we're talking about like actual environment, you can actually measure, like use actual statistics to understand the probability of something happening in that environment. Where like Patterson, New Jersey is a statistically known area that is very high in crime.
No, I understand.
It's very high in crime and very high
if
in violent. But again,
when we're doing logistics and when we're doing all the math, absolutely. Feel me? We can sit here and try to sit here and analyze that about a single person that we're walking past as well. But you say you try not to do that. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's when the conversation that we had then led to shit could happen to you anywhere. It don't necessarily matter.
No, yeah, 100%. But like I'm talking about, but that's where we can get to the conversation of
and having the same preconceived notion about one specific demographic of people can apply to another just as well.
No, but Davey, it's not a matter of the demographics of a certain area. Just because Patterson is predominantly black and Hispanic doesn't mean that like I'm looking at Hispanic and black people in that area as being criminal. It's more of like just the overall environment in Patterson and the statistical reality of Patterson, New Jersey being a very high crime area. That's what I'm cautious of. I'm not cautious of the fucking people that are in there. I'm just cautious of the environment because the environment has shown very clearly that there are high rates of crime and murder and robbery in that area. But when I'm in Patterson and someone walks up to me, Davian, again, that judgment part of my brain shuts off. I don't know who the fuck you are, so I'm not going to label you in any way. The environment I'm going to label because the environment has proven is dangerous. It's the same thing with like the fucking Davian. It's the same thing with parts. Like, I don't want to sound fucked up right now, parts of the Middle East. If you go to certain countries in the Middle East, Davian, you know that you are at risk of not only getting possibly attacked over there or possibly bombed from another country or whatever the fuck or
I understand. I completely understand.
Yeah.
I'm only trying to make the same type of case for any other type of scenario that you could be in. Like, if I was walking around in red country.
Yes, the same thing, Davian.
The same thing applies.
Yes, exactly, Davian. But it's a little bit different because with that, it's not a preconceived idea from your perspective. It's coming from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, if you're in, for example, Arkansas, which is the most racist state in the country or whatever the fuck, the people in that environment, David, are going to look at you and have preconceived ideas about you without. And they're not going to shut that part of their brain off. They're just going to automatically go with what their brain is making them assume about you. But it's different if you were to go to Arkansas. You don't necessarily. You probably should have that same like caution, but like.
I don't want to have a preconceived notion.
It's not going to benefit anybody.
I don't want to have a preconceived notion about somebody who's flying a Trump flag on their front porch, but. You still ordered your package, so I had to give it to you.
Yeah.
You know, that's how Amazon works. You know, but
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Davian, and like that's just the reality. Because like Davian, remember Davian, like human beings.
Like, you'd be surprised how many 2028 Trump flags I see.
Oh yeah, they're all over my neighborhood too, like, in Bedminster when I go to work. 100%, they're everywhere. But the crazy thing is, Davian, the people that open the door and pick up their food, Davian, again, at least initially they're nice, and maybe they're just doing that to be friendly to me because they don't want to possibly get sued by my job for attacking me or whatever.
Whatever the case is, those are the same people who be like, "Oh, I'm not racist," unless they actually say that they are.
Right. I mean, no one's gonna really openly say that unless you live in like Arkansas.
You really got the balls to say that shit.
And you live in like a state.
Listen,
like,
I don't know. I think a motherfucker could say that shit if they really felt bold enough. I don't care where you.
Well, shockingly, no, Davian. Do you know the controversy regarding that streamer Chud the Builder or whatever the hell?
No, I don't know who Chud the Builder is, and you've been bringing up Arkansas a lot.
Arkansas racist.
I've never been to Arkansas. Don't know who's over there. So like,
it's home of the KKK.
Okay.
It's the base of the KKK.
All right.
No, seriously, that ass.
I bet it is. I just you coming with the research. You be coming with the research for the strongest takes.
Are we not supposed to do that?
Nah, I know, but that shit is just like.
Are we not supposed to bring statistics to a conversation?
You came with all the statistics to tell everybody that Arkansas is the most racist state. I fuck with it. So that way you can't even argue it if you motherfuckers is really racist like that.
But the thing, so like when it comes to like human interactions, Davian, the reality of it is that like everybody has at least to some degree. Like even me, even though I said that like I shut that part of my brain off. I only shut it off after my brain already tells me a possible presumption of who you are when I first meet you, because I don't know anything about you. I don't know who your parents are. I don't know your life experiences. I don't know where you're from. I don't know what you think or what you believe in, Davian, at all. So my brain has to assume and predict what you might be before I attempt to trust you.
You're giving yourself, you're taking the opportunity to have the second thought because of the inevitable first thought that we all have.
But it's also partly because of my education of understanding that my brain does that automatically. Because again, Davian, like until people become aware of like that the brain does that automatically, people are not going to be able to like say, you know what? Like, are not going to be able to have the discipline to like say to not just go automatically with their presumptions of who you are as a person. Like, David, when I met you at the Cheesecake Factory, David, I didn't know who the fuck you were. David, how do I know when I met you at Cheesecake Factory at 19 that you weren't potentially a serial killer with bodies in your basement? I don't know that.
Nope.
I don't know that, David. So I have to like my brain has to pre-assess who you might be based off of how you look, or based off of what you might say or what you might believe in or whatever the fuck. Until you start talking, Davian, I have to do that. But so like when I first met you, Davian, I know that I had a preconceived notion of who you were, but back then I just went along with what it was. And this is why first persons are so important, because when I first did meet you, you made me laugh. That's why I kind of said, you know what, yo, Davian might be a really cool guy because he just made me laugh.
Man, I fucking joke all day.
Yeah, like when I first met him, he made a comment about the current president, and he made me laugh. So my first impression of who he was and my first preconceived notion of who he was on good terms. You know what I'm saying? This is why like my lack of social skills are the way they are, Davian, because people look at me, and whenever I walk around, Davian, I look like a fucking angry psychopath where people think I'm gonna kill somebody because I look mean, apparently.
Well, you just pick up on different social cues. You need to be in different circles of environment that stimulate your mind in that way. Like
what do you mean?
I've heard of this.
Like me specifically?
Yeah.
Like I need to go to certain environments where like
I've heard this rule. It's called the thirds rule or whatever. Like a third of your time is spent being around people that you can learn from. You know, and then a third of your time is spent being around people that you can actually teach. And then another third of your time is being around people who are somewhere around the same level as you who you can trade information with.
And that's, you know what, that actually makes sense, Davian. And I'm not trying to sound condescending. Where like, I probably, with the exception of you and Mike, I don't really have many people around me like that I can actually converse with and have these sorts of conversations with. Because, again, not trying to be condescending right now, they just don't have the education that I have, and they haven't read what I read. So they literally just don't get me because they can't.
What, maybe this is an opportunity to find either more people who you can teach, who may get what you're saying, or find people who you can learn from, who may be able to teach you something that you can teach somebody else.
That truthfully involves me going to college, which I can't afford.
You don't gotta go to college. I think being in the right spaces to learn or to be able to teach people really depends on self. Sometimes, like, and the opportunities that you try to make for yourself. Like I thought about last year when I had just came off of like my book was out or whatever, but I wanted to keep doing more with poetry, and I was looking for more like open mics, but I couldn't find it. But I was going to different libraries, giving my book out as like donating copies of my book, and I found a library that, you know, gave me an opportunity to do like a poetry workshop, and I was in there like just doing exercises or whatever, but I'm like teaching in a sense. I'm almost teaching in a sense. Like, it gave me the opportunity to literally like explain to somebody else the madness, the things up here that I call madness that create greatness, you know.
Fair enough. And yeah, you know what, Davian, and that's probably a fair thing to say. It's just like, for me, I'm just a bitch, and like I don't have like the social confidence to even go into those circles that I probably should be going into, because I'm just scared. I'm just keeping it real with you.
Go to this app called Meetup.
Meetup?
Yeah. It's I used to use it originally during the pandemic to find open mics. I would find like poetry open mics, and they'd be on Zoom or some shit, and everybody be at home on their Zoom, and they would get their chance, and they would go up and do their poem or whatever, and it would be cool. It was just the way, or I would do poetry workshops on there too, you know, and it was just a way to be around other people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing. So they have like a lot of different ones centered around different things. So if you're looking for something that's centered around like I don't know, there's book clubs on there. There's one centered around business. You know, if you're looking for something that might teach you more about the Shopify thing you're trying to learn, or you know, things that might be related around like fashion. You know, there's these opportunities, whether they're in person or whether they're on Zoom. Like they're out there, or they just have. Sometimes there's just like Facebook groups, or like just internet forums that people just collaborate on, I would say.
Yeah.
And share information, or looking for more information, or providing their services, or whatever the hell, you know.
Right.
Go try Reddit too.
I've always heard of Reddit, and like I'm a little afraid to be on Reddit because like I've heard like some pretty fucked up stories.
There's a lot of stories on Reddit. Reddit has things for everything.
And explain to me again, like what is Reddit really, like what is it actually meant? Like I've been on
a forum website.
I've been on the website, and like I never really understood how it makes sense.
It's a forum website, so you can.
What is that?
It's literally like you can go on Reddit and you can ask a question. You could go on Reddit looking for somebody who does something specific, and people can chime in with their answers. But everything is moderated and made sure it's tailored to the conversation at hand, and that's why there's so many different handles depending on what you're talking about.
Because when I hear Reddit, I always hear like internet trolls and like racist people and shit like that.
It depends on what you're looking for. Like, I went on Reddit before personally looking for artists, when I was looking for people to do drawings on the inside of my second edition, my first book. I went on there scouting for artists. I was like, I have a book project that I'm doing. I have some sketches that I want to have drawn inside the book. and I'm looking for somebody who's versatile, somebody who has their own style. Send me some inspiration. And people reached out. I reached out to a couple of people, so some people did some work. I still have some work that has to be done, but you can use it for anything.
You know what's crazy? All of this is like just circles right back to the fact that like we as humans we live for social connections, and we live for relationships. Where like everything is based on like interacting with other people and trying to share a bond and like trust and identity with other people. Anybody ever notice that?
No,
like everything that we do is on the
absolutely.
basis of like social connections and relationships.
And it goes to show you that technology used in the right way has the tools to help you to do literally whatever you want to do. There's all the resources out there for you to do, as long as you know what you're doing with technology. And that's why you need to be Tony Stark to have Jarvis. Point fucking blank. Word is born. And if you're not Tony Stark, you don't need no Jarvis.
Yeah.
Word is born. But you can use technology or figure out a way to use technology to benefit you and maximize whatever it is that you have going on.
Yeah. And on one final note, one thing I want to say about like the need for social groups is that if there's one thing that I've learned in my soon to be 30 years of being alive on this planet is that with the support of enough people, you literally can do anything.
Absolutely.
But that's both a great and terrifying thing, Davian, because with the power of enough people, Davian, you can promote any idea, any movement, any ideology that is either good, progressive, regressive, racist, dangerous, violent, whatever it is. With enough social support, anything is possible.
You're absolutely right, and anybody in that position can do a lot. And it all really comes down to what kind of person you are.
And your motivation.
And your motivations, On that note, we'll leave it like that. You know what's going on. It's the Unpopular Podcast. Randall in the building. Will's the cameraman in the building. We'll catch y'all on the next one.